Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. Yep, I've been having conversations with the other side while trying to keep up appearances. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. We'll swap true tales of the seen and unseen, and maybe even laugh about the weird stuff we've experienced. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, come join me as we explore the paranormal. Let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together. Welcome to Jaunty Haunts. Welcome back, listeners. Tonight's episode is different. If you've been with us for parts 1 and 2 of our Devil and Demonology series, you know we've danced through the flames with a mix of theory, history, and a dash of wicked humor. We examined the hierarchies of hell, played with the ideas of evil, and even channeled a few characters to make sense of the unknowable. But this time, we're leaving the safety of the scholar's desk. Tonight, we cross the line into lived reality. We're joined by a very special guest, Issac from Hidden in the Shadows podcast, a show devoted to true paranormal encounters, investigations, and the thin, often terrifying veil between our world and the next. Our guest doesn't just talk about demons, he's faced them. This episode isn't theory, it's testimony. We'll hear first-hand accounts of demonic presence, attacks, and full-on possessions. And more importantly, we'll learn about the protection, practices, and spiritual power it takes to stand against them. This is the flip side of what we've explored. Because for some people, demons aren't metaphors. They're not folklore, they're real. And they target the vulnerable, and they don't go quietly. So tonight, I invite you to listen a little closer. Turn down the lights, and if something moves out of the corner of your eye, maybe don't look. You're about to hear what happens when the darkness stares back, and someone decides to fight it. This is part 3 of the Devil and Demonology with Hidden in the Shadows podcast, Issac. The CASPER rating of this episode is 4. Hey, everybody. Hey, listeners. Today, I've got a very special guest here from the Hidden in the Shadows podcast. This is Issac.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here.
Yes, me and the missus started a podcast, I think, around June of 2020, during the pandemic, like most people started podcasts around that time. But ours survived after everything was going back normal. We mostly started original podcasts because I was getting into podcasts around 2019 at the time, and me and my wife's nighttime conversations were always interesting. So we decided to start a podcast originally called Not Your Average Conversation, where we just talked about everything. But we noticed that all our paranormal themed episodes did far better than anything else we did. So we decided to scrap just the idea of everything and focus particularly on the paranormal, and Hidden in the Shadows was born. Because between me and the missus, we have probably enough paranormal experiences to fill up a couple of novels. So the early days of our podcast was us just telling our stories, from ghost stories 1 through, I think, 7, I think we were at. And then just picking the most popular, paranormal subjects that most paranormal podcasts always talk about, going through what we experienced because of it. And one thing I've always said is that we have experience with most things we talk about, but not everything we talk about. So it creates that almost person in the game versus a spectator kind of commentary about the paranormal. Because, like I said, me and my wife both, till this day, experienced stuff. And then also we became paranormal investigators late 2021. So we are out there consistently going in to the paranormal along with talking about it at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to say, I've been listening to your show the last few days, and I think what you said there really hit the nail on the head about how you guys are first person, like in the field, constantly not only experiencing things, but also investigating, talking about it. It feels very, I don't know, I don't love this word, but like fresh, very relevant, because it's like you guys are the first person. You're not speculating. You're not like, well, I heard about this thing once. You guys are really talking firsthand. And I think that's what's been so fun for me as a listener, for sure.
Yeah. And then we took our listeners on a very strange journey as of in the 2021 with the Shadow Walker series.
Yeah.
Because of September of 2020 is when my ability came to me or awoken in me, however you
Wow.
want to. And from then on, it became me updating people about my ability growing and evolving from what it originally started as, and the journey that I'm still on today, finding as much information as I can about it. Because, as I said 100 times, as of today, I'm still yet to be 100% about what it is, where it's from, or any in the essence, because I have scoured the earth for information, looked at the histories of all religions and all histories and mythologies and everything you can find out there, and yet to find anyone and anything that is 100% like me that ever existed.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, you got me there. Do you feel comfortable sharing with me and my listeners as well, kind of what these abilities are, what you've got going on?
Yes, and I have told the story several times. I think I got it down to about 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, great. We've got time.
Yeah, September of 2020. Um, my ability came to me, and like I said, I wasn't psychic or medium or anything of the essence. Still, technically, isn't is not are not. Yeah, till this day. But before then, no abilities, no nothing, no intuition, no anything other than living on a haunted ranch when I was young, and then all the paranormal experiences I've had with Megan, my co-host, and my wife on the show between me and her. But no, nothing of the essence of having any kind of abilities. But in September of 2020, the ability woke, and what it was when it started was a tingling sensation in my hands, almost like when your hands go to sleep. And I figured out that I was feeling the energy of the dead.
Wow.
Where I knew where they were in a room. And the tingling sensation would start in the center of my palm, would spread out through my fingers. The closer or the stronger the entity was. And learning to differentiate which hand means which. Because both don't detect the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when my left hand charges, is what I call the sensation, that tells me there's a positive spirit around, something on the light side of the spectrum of the paranormal. When my right hand charges, is something evil, something dark, something negative on the spectrum of the paranormal. But that was the first stages. Me thinking I was a natural EMF detector.
Yeah.
But then it evolved to where I could pull that energy in like a black hole or vacuum into my hand and then absorbing it into myself and then filtering it and then releasing it in a breath like a and
Wow.
energy would turn neutral. And that act, though, me pulling and transmutating essentially, started taking a toll on me. It actually started turning the hair on the right side of my head and my beard gray. Uh, I'm only 37, granted, I have little spots of grays here and there, but nothing like how it was happening. She said, "You got to find another way to do this." But luckily, at the time, the paranormal team that we were part of, I had my mentor there, and he had a dream or a vision of the King's Solomon symbol. Now he didn't know what the King Solomon symbol was. That was he saw, but also, you know, at the same time, we had a member on the team who was Jewish, so he instantly recognized it when he posted in our group chat. "Hey, do you guys never recognize this symbol?" And he drew it out. He said, "Oh yeah, that's the symbol of King Solomon's ring." And I was like, "Ah, I remember the story about King Solomon, the only guy in history to do what essentially what I'm doing now. He imprisoned 70 demons in a ring using Psalmatic magic. Granted, my ability is not magic. And it's funny is that the King Solomon story is told in all the Abrahamic faiths. In Christianity and Judaism and Islam, they all tell the same story. Though in Islam, they use the word jinn instead of demon.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
70 jinn instead of 70 demon. But that gave me the idea. The only person in history who was able to do that is doing that now. Then let me give that a try. So I bought a King Solomon replica ring, nothing special, just steel and silver, and put it. I about able to fit my pinky, and I put it on. And when I pulled something, I simply said, "Into the ring," and I closed my fist. Then when I opened it, it didn't feel like when it usually does when I pull it into myself. I was like, "Where the hell did it go?" And I kept doing this over and over again. And my wife and this is why we're meant to be together. She's a very powerful psychic medium. I've yet to meet anyone that matches her in skill and what she's capable of doing. I call it jack of all trades when it comes to psychic abilities. But she was able to tune in, or she heard screaming and yelling and swearing coming from the ring. And she was like, What's going on? What the hell is that? What have you been doing? I told her, described what I was doing. She's like, she channeled into the ring, and she said it looked like a holding cell or a prison cell with all these Dementor-looking kind of entities flying around and hitting the walls and able to leave and escape.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? And then, but that's every psychic medium I ever showed it to. That's the vibe they get from it. It feels like a prison, like nothing's able to escape from it. It's like a prison,
Right.
for dark entities, right? Um, and then I gave it that name because I was asked once, "Do you have a name for the ring?" And I was like, at the time, I didn't. I just called it simply the ring. But then I thought about it, and I was like, I got a name for it: Cien de Fergo, which is Latin for no escape.
Oh,
So,
wow. Cool. Okay.
yeah. And I chose Latin because it's one of the oldest languages, and if any entity I put in there is old, it would recognize it. So, but that's what it became. And then I kept everything I pulled. I kept putting in there, and it became like a permanent prison for everything that I took. And nothing has been able to escape it. Everything that I've taken has gone in there. Everything.
Oh my gosh.
And then through practice and meditation and learning to get in touch with my spirit guides, all stuff that my mentor taught me because he didn't know anything about my ability. He's never heard anything about it before. But he helped me on the other side of spirituality, essence of like getting in touch with spirit guides, looking through your third eye, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out it wasn't a vacuum that I was creating. Strings of energy were leaving my fingertips and firing out and wrapping around the entity like a boa constrictor, condensing and reeling in the entity that I grabbed until it's about the size of a ball in my hand, and then I shove it into the ring.
Oh my God. Wow.
With a command. And from the most dangerous demons to the most average a-hole spirits, nothing has been able to stop me. And I don't say that to be arrogant about it. It's just a matter of fact. Nothing has been able to stop me. Everything that I've reached out and grabbed and pulled, that's it. But that was in real life. That's in person, dealing with haunted locations and stuff that came to this house looking for a fight. I evolved my ability in a sense of learning about quantum mechanics, quantum theory, astrophysics, astro theory, all those forms of high-level science when it comes to high-dimensional space and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had the idea, could I send these tendrils through the screen, like how we're talking now, from my location into your location? And yeah, I figured out how to send them through and open up and be in your place, grab whatever's there, pull it from your place through the phone to my place, and of course put it in the ring, which has allowed me to do 53 home cases across the entire world.
Okay. Like cleansing homes and helping people out from literally through the internet. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it has to be in real time, like how we're talking now. It can't be pre-recorded, so it has to be at the moment.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've helped people in Australia, Portugal, England, India, Canada, Mexico, across the United States, many places. But only 2 home cases ever have actually done in person.
Yeah.
The rest have all been remote, kind of like this. But yeah, I've helped endless amount of people, consistent families. I'm really big in Canada. I've helped the majority of people I haven't helped in Canada more than anywhere else. But then again, I have a paranormal team that I work with over there very exclusively they're called Unknown Paranormal.
Okay, yeah.
Work with them a lot. But yeah, they become almost like family in a sense. But
well, that's fascinating. I mean, first of all, I want to thank you for being such an open book with all of that. I mean, your experience, your foundation of this, and sort of how it's a relatively new thing, and it seems like you've been talking to the right people, and I mean, with your guides and everything, to really figure out how to use this ability you've been given. I mean, I'm like so impressed, first of all, because I feel like season 1 of Jaunty Haunts, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen yet, but basically has been my story about like coming out of like, hey, I see stuff, right? So my whole life I felt so nervous to talk to people. So it's so refreshing to talk to someone who's like so into this and also has like so many abilities. To hear about you and your wife is like, I don't know. I just feel like a giddy kid to hear like, wow, this is so cool. Like, it's, I feel like, I don't know about you, but a lot of challenges in the real world is facing skeptics and people who are like, oh, this isn't real. And like, on such a profound level how real it is and how your firsthand experience is not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to transfer or explain it to people who don't know what you're talking about. So again, I just really want to thank you for being so open with me about it as a total stranger on the internet. So thank you.
That's no problem. I've done a good amount of interviews over this time. As soon as I give a hint about this story, everyone wants to hear about it because it's like, again, no one's ever heard anything like this before. There are things that sound similar, but never exactly like it.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, I've met people who, you know, who can use energy and transfer energy and really amazing things that I've never had the ability to do. But hearing you specifically about using such a tangible, like the description of how tangible your energy work is and being able to put everything into this ring and to help not only yourself but people around you and potentially property and potentially other spirits being antagonized by these dark things. Can I ask, what is it like now with the ring, right? Do you wear it daily or how does that feel kind of carrying that energy around? Is it empowering or does it weigh heavy on you? What is that like?
I don't. I keep it in my pocket
Okay.
majority of the time. But wearing it on my finger over time does cause pain.
Right. I would
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
it feels like because I wear my pinky, so that area around my knuckle, it almost feels like you gotta pop it. Like you feel like that annoying strain between your knuckles. Like you feel like if you just pop it, it'll be 100% better. That sensation consistently there, and it gets worse and worse and worse the longer I wear it. So it's a real pain in the butt because at last report, 157 confirmed demons in that ring,
Oh my god.
um, along with a kaleidoscope of many other dark entities I put there. And I've lost count of how many dark human entities I have put in there.
Mm.
Because if you are an asshole in life, you will be an asshole in death.
Yeah.
And I've taken plenty of dark human entities who are just talking mad, all the time, the entire time of investigation, and then they're gone. And that scares literally every other entity in the location. The first pull I do, and then it's a game of hunting.
Yeah.
Some are think they can challenge and stuff like that, but no. After I would say a couple hours or so, me and my wife have a location cleared out, and then we help all the spirits who want to leave cross over, and then making the location about 90%, if not more or less, haunted than when we found it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are doing like as they say the Lord's work, right? You're clearing this stuff out. You're helping people. I love it. That's really fascinating. Okay, I'm like looking at my original list of questions here, and I feel like we've jumped so far past them. So give me a second to see kind of what makes sense now to ask next here. Can you kind of take us back to the early days? I know you talked about why you guys started this podcast and what was, really fulfilling for you in the beginning and like what was, hitting with audiences of like, hey, this is successful and we're having fun with this, right? But like, was there a specific moment, whether it just in a casual conversation or an inciting incident that made you and your wife go like, we have to start a podcast about this? Like, was there a specific paranormal experience or anything like that?
No, because we've had enough paranormal experiences throughout our entire life to be a point where we talked about it all the time. But um, it's because we noticed that the paranormal subjects are doing more. Now, my wife is a little bit of hesitant about it because she don't want to be considered like a weirdo or anything like that. And I told her, like, hey, the stuff we've talked about, the thing we talked about is timid compared to some of the weird stuff I've heard out there from other podcasts. So we're
Sure.
fine. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I've heard the strangest things out there, and I'm surprised anyone else would be brave enough to talk about it on the airwaves. So no,
Right.
we're fine. We're fine. We're fine. So we started just talking about our experiences and stuff like that. But uh, it was after I think our first home case we ever did is when we started. She said, "You know what? You need to start telling people about what we're doing." Because before, people just assumed, "Oh, we're just like she's a psychic medium. I'm a paranormal enthusiast. We'll talk about that." But it was after our first home case. I think we said, "Okay, you need to start talking about the Shadow Walker series. when you start doing haunted updates and telling people what we were doing and all that stuff. And then from that point on, when people heard us talk about this, how we can help, therefore people contacted us through the podcast asking our help in situations. So we've had a lot of people contact us from listening to the podcast going, oh, finally someone who actually can help me with
Yeah.
what's going on. And then we've helped a lot of people through there.
Right. I love that because there's not, like a number you can call, or like you can't Google like, pest control for spirits, right? It's such a taboo subject. So having something that you and your wife have that can actually really help people, like what a great resource for people. So I'm excited to know as well, and to share with any of my listeners as well. Like, hey, if you've got something you're having trouble with, this guy sounds like a master at this point. I mean, I just can't believe that in 2020 this sort of gift was like I don't know, it feels very what's the word, I don't know, it sounds like a book almost. Like I really want to have a book of your life, like the story of your childhood growing up to the point where like this huge gift was sort of bestowed upon you, where you've discovered this amazing ability that you have, as well as your wife's stories. Because I know in your earlier episodes I heard her talking about how this also is sort of something that runs in her family with her mother and her mother's mother, and having this generational thing of sensitivity, as she said in like the first couple episodes.
Well, studying as much as I have with the occult and the paranormal and how psychic mediums and everything around it, chakras and the whole idea of it, I've come to a realization that I think it's less of her vessel and more of the soul that holds power. Same for me.
Mm-hmm.
But her vessel is not saying unimportant. Her bloodline does hold a very powerful gypsy bloodline that goes back very far, all the way from Italy and probably further back, that holds a lot of power, at least capability of power. The same for mine. I'm, I would say 90% Mexican and about 10% in Native American, which I didn't find that out until I was 30. I find out my great grandfather was 100% Choctaw Native, so I was like, "Oh, great! I could have used that for college stuff when I was applying back when I was younger." But I think it made a chalk up to the idea of the Aztecs and the Mexicas from back in a long time. They had a very connection to the spiritual realm and stories and stuff like that. Plus, mixed with a little bit of native blood, made this vessel capable of doing everything I'm doing now. And also, the strongest clue I have to any of this is with one of my 6 names. 6 names, 6 titles I've earned over my 5 years of doing this. But the most important of all my 6 names is the last, which I had surgery about 2 years ago over my belly button with a hernia surgery. And I don't know if you've had surgery before, but I've never experienced anesthesia of falling asleep and waking up at the same second and hours have passed. But my mentor, he's had a lot of surgeries over his time. He's had stomach cancer, and he's in remission, he's fine. But he had a lot of stomach surgeries. And he told me, when you're under anesthesia, if you meditate, you can go anywhere. Anywhere. So I was like, let me see what I can do when I go there. And literally the night before the surgery, I get visited by my grandfather. But not my grandfather from this lifetime who's passed away. My grandfather from the 1700s when I was with the Cheyenne tribe.
Wow.
And he told Megan to tell me to, when Isaac goes under tomorrow, to come find him. So with that in mind, I went under and I came back. And all I remember from the 6 hours I was under was me and him, Native American man, sitting in front of me, sitting in front of a fire pit, and the fire was blue. And we were sitting out front of a cave on natural outcropping of rock. And all I remember is him pointing at me and saying, "You are Ashwakanatunka, the Reaper of Souls. You are Ashwakanatunka, the Reaper of Souls." And I was like, "What?" And I've tried looking up any information on that name, Ashwakanatunka, and I was like, I can't find anything. I've asked indigenous people I've met around here on the east coast of NC, where I am right now. Nothing. No one. No one has any answers. No one has any questions. I looked up the history of the word. Nothing. I've told people before, and they said, "Oh, it sounds indigenous. I just can't, figure out where it's from." And I think I assume it's with the Great Plains indigenous with the Cheyenne, because I was a Cheyenne at the time. But then again, what's strange is our investigations that we do around here, around the forest and the woods and different places we investigate, we could come across a lot of indigenous spirits. And they call me Ashwakanatanka over the spirit box. We hear it come through the spirit box while we're out there investigating. Ashwakan, there's. And then my friend, like I said, in Unknown Paranormal, and they investigate in Vancouver area of Canada, and he was investigating Mike. He was investigating one of the indigenous graveyard areas, and he asked them, "Hey, I have a question for you guys. I have a friend in the States who has a specific indigenous name. Do you think you can answer it for me? Have you guys heard the name Ashwakanatanka?" And then instantly a response through the spirit box, "Ah, yes, he is king." That's
Oh
it.
my gosh.
So indigenous spirits on north west coast,
Yeah.
indigenous spirits on the far east coast, and this is supposed to be a Central Plains legend amongst the Cheyenne, all know the name. So there's a deeper clue to that name that I've yet to figure out and yet to find out any information on. And it's been one of my greatest chases that I have been doing for the last 2 years to find any information. And I suspect if I talk to a native elder, I might get some answers, but they're harder to get to hold of than anyone in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's so interesting because that all ties into everything of this sort of divine calling you've had with this ring, right? You talked about King Solomon and all of this, and now literally relating the title to king. It seems like, right, like that's really your calling. I mean, if spirit boxes and your guides and all these other things have literally gifted you this name, and the only person who knows what it means is relating it to king. Is that kind of like what you're like accepting it as? Is like, wow, this is really what I'm meant to be doing with this ability?
I know my purpose
Yeah.
is to eradicate as much dark entities from this planet as I can, from our dimensional space and beyond. Who knows? Because of spirits, as we theorize, me and my wife, spirits, ghosts, demons are on the fourth dimensional space. Humanity's on the third. They reach to us through the veil, and that's how they're able to be here without being seen. At least that's my strongest theory, anyway. Um, but if I'm reaching into their dimension and pulling them out of it and shoving it in the ring, then uh, I'm technically taking what's on a higher dimensional plane from their location to ours, pulling. So yeah, seems to be no limitations to my ability, and that's why I've said I've taken down high-ranking demons. Demons that you know their names. You've heard in movies, you've heard in stories. If anyone's ever studied an inkling of demonology, which I have, you would know exactly who they are. And I've taken down 26 of them,
Oh my god.
along with all the 156 other demons that I have to, added in. But yeah, it becomes easy, and I've looked at them, I've seen them, I
Yeah.
know what they sound like, all of that, because when I put them in the ring, my tendrils allow me to go in and see inside what it looks like in there, what it sounds like in there. If you can imagine, I don't know if you ever a fan of Slipknot.
Some songs, but yeah, go ahead.
There's an opening track to the Iowa album called 515. You times that by 100, and that's what it sounds like in there. What it looks like, if you can imagine a forest after a nuclear blast, all the trees are black and burnt. The ground is covered in mud and dirt. The sky is overcast, right? And everything in there is different shadow figures from height, sizes. Some have horns, some don't. They're all yelling and screaming and just, consistently pissed off that they're imprisoned. But every time I take something from someone's home and I throw it in there, I go in there and I ask them, or sorry, I interrogate them to get answers out of them of why they were oppressing somebody. Why were they haunting a location, right? Why were they there? And after strong persuasions of interrogation, I finally get answers out of them for why they were bothering a certain person. And that answer I give to the person, oftentimes it's met with shock because they were like, oh, I did this around this. I guess that's what it means and stuff like that. So I actually, using small amount of detective work, figure out why it was following or even after a certain person.
Okay. I kind of want to tell you something then and ask you something because I wasn't going to like bring this up, but I had an experience about 3 days ago and it's really been sticking with me. Do you mind if I ask you about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh god, sorry, I get a little nervous because I still get nervous telling people kind of what I see and stuff. But For a long time I've just seen, human spirit. And I felt more, like dark or malignant energies or demonic energy has been more of like a visceral feeling, but I haven't seen one with my own eyes until Monday night. I live in New York. I live in Manhattan, and I got on a train, and everyone was smushed to one side of the train. Right, there was a man, a homeless man, and he had kind of like a pile of stuff around him. I get chills. I was so tired. I had worked a long shift. I didn't care. I got on the train and I angled sort of away from him, just because I know if I meet eyes with someone, sometimes I can connect and have an experience that I don't want to energetically. So I angled away from him and we started moving, and I hear behind me a little girl's voice. And it was like, "Mommy, mommy, something something something." And then a different voice, almost like a female, older female talking to the child, and then a man's voice. And I turn and it's just him, and obviously this can be explained away with like multiple personality disorder, mental health issues, of course, but the voices were so distinct and different from each other that I instantly, I say like my woo woo spikes, everything was kind of up, like, all right, there's something going on here. And then from my third eye, saw um, a demon for the first time I've ever saw. I told my therapist, I told my romantic partner, I told my best friend, but it was a long skull of some sort of horned animal with twisting horns coming up, and then the human body, probably about 7 feet tall, with fingers that came down, probably like 6, 7 inches. And it just sort of started walking towards me like this, right? Like very casual, very slow motion. And I hear the man laughing, like, ha, 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 ha. So he dropped all the other voices. It was just his voice. And for me personally, what I've been working on and sharing with everybody is like just extricating fear, right? I'm working from a place of neutrality, especially when it's a dark spirit. It's like, I see you. I don't want to interact with you. Be on your way, right? I'm not scared. I'm not hyperactive because they like that energy, that like yum yum yum. So it's just like, no, dude, keep moving, right? Real like New Yorker energy, like get out of my way. But I get off the train and I still feel this about 7 to 20 feet behind me. So we go to Five Guys. I get a burger. I get some fries. I come out on the corner. I say, you know what? I still feel it. And I look and it's standing out in front of Grand Central about, I'd say 100, 200 feet away on the corner, just staring. And so I was like, all right, let me go to the church. There's a church on the corner, a big Irish Catholic church. And I'm not religious. I don't subscribe, but I was like, maybe this will help. So I start walking up to the church and I see it go like, you're not gonna. Like, you're not gonna. And I just walk inside. I put my hand on the physical building. I say a prayer. I look up and I see the thing go like this. And then walk back into Grand Central and go away. But that was the first experience with like a full physical being I've seen. And I feel safe now. I haven't felt anything in my house or anything, but it's interesting how it kind of tagged along for a little bit and like wanted to see what it could do. Anyway, that was kind of a first for me. I guess I want to know like your take, knowing you deal with things like this all the time.
The elongated skull and the horns remind me of what I've seen of skinwalkers.
Really?
Yeah, I've 5 of those guys I've taken so far. The dead ones, not alive. The spirits of ones. You'd be
Okay.
surprised what's around here. And then a couple have come to this house. And I think I pulled one from someone's location as well, doing an investigation. Um, but that's what it just reminds me of. But one thing I've noticed about demons, the high ranker ones, and even ones that are trying to make their way up the ranks, is that the designs in their skin, right? It almost looks
Yeah.
like carving
Yes.
and almost like tattoos.
Yeah.
But how tattoos would be, like carvings in their skin and stuff like that. The more designs and stuff like that, the higher the rank they are. That's what I've learned to find out
Oh,
about.
I'm getting chills because he had these swirls coming up over his shoulders onto his arm and like some minimal lining on his chest. But it was more coming down his upper arms onto his forearms and his wrists, and then a little bit on his thighs.
So he's working his way up, or he's trying to at least. Um,
Wait, okay, I don't know anything about this in terms of ranking. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, depending on who you talk to and different faiths and stuff like that, you might get a different idea of rank, right?
Okay.
So if you want to think of the military, right?
Oh, okay, interesting.
You
Yeah.
got you got the top guy, right? Which essentially is the devil, right? See, he's the top general, 5-star, all that stuff. And then you have his higher underlings, who are the top rankers, right? Those are the guys you know of, like Beelzebub and
Right.
Mallet, and all those top guys, right? And then you have their underlings, which is another degree down, which you consider like lieutenants or commanders or something like that. And then of course you have go underneath, and you have privates. Or another sense of royality, you have the princes of hell, you have the kings of hell, and stuff like that. And then you have dukes, and then of course you have just underlings who are just foot soldiers in a sense like that. They're working their way up. Like the top rankers, the 26 that I have, these are names that are in the Lesser Keys of Solomon. When he went through all the 70 demons he took, granted I only had 26 of them, but that's where I got their names from. Well, getting their names out of them, and then figuring out, okay, so that's who it is. But yeah, it's not like he's trying to work his way up, and by oppressions and then possessions is how they start working their way up. So the simple fact that he has as much designs in his flesh already tells me he's already done a few oppression to people, possibly in a couple of possessions, depending
Wow.
on what's happened. And he looked at you like, oh, this one can see me. This one has power. This one has intuition. It can see. So that's what I started following you, because if it could break you, if it can make you lose will, if
LOL.
it can feed off your negativity, right? It'd be a bigger prize than say someone who is just an average person with no psychic mediumship abilities whatsoever.
Oh my god. Oh, that's very interesting. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh, I'm so glad I brought that up. Yeah, because that was like odd. That I like your take on that. Okay, so let me ask you this then, right? In terms of this sort of hierarchy and this how this works. I'm very interested in like, demonology and like the devil as an idea, right? Because so much it's in this like storybook character in a format for the rest of the world, right? And even for myself, who I don't subscribe to, Christianity, right? So I'm like, is the devil someone I should actually be afraid of? Are these things I should actually be worried about? Or can I navigate this path of respect towards supernatural beings of like, you do your thing on either side. I'm making my way through. Or is there a general caution I should have, even though my own will is so strong? Does that make sense?
Yeah. To clarify on my end, I am not of the Christian faith. I haven't been for years now.
Mm-hmm.
I actually adopted the Nordic faith for a long period of time,
Cool.
but I'm not actually a follower of gods. I kind of learn, I work with, but as of worship, no, I haven't worshipped a god in a very, very, very long time now. But I don't pray or anything like that. I communicate, I discuss, I try to get information from it by meditation, but prayers, no. I haven't done a prayer forever because I haven't seen a use for it from what I've been doing. Right?
Absolutely.
But I could have learned that I think all gods exist. Every single one that's ever been worshipped exists, and whoever you subscribe to essentially is the one that will answer you with any questions. But what I come to find out with evil, demons have existed long before Christianity ever did.
Yeah.
Back then in Latin, they were called daemons. And then every culture on the earth, every religion and faith have their versions of demons, right? It's not isolated specifically to Christianity. They're just the ones that seem to have adopted the idea of it. And maybe they're the ones that actually decided to start fighting them at a different level. That's a strong session. But then other faiths have their own forms of exorcisms and different ways of doing that. There's actually a book on exorcism that existed 1,000 years before Christianity even existed. So they were doing it a long time ago. I think with the Mesopotamians, or not Mesopotamians, the Babylonians, I think they were starting to try it out. But to the idea you have that if you remain neutral, if strong will is a very important thing. Yes, strong will is a very important thing. They repelled by strong will. They don't like dealing with it because if someone's not going to easily be broken, what's the point?
Right.
Unless they really, really want something from you, then they'll try their hardest. But strong will is a very important thing. Protection, obviously, is extremely important. But no, remaining neutral in this spiritual war is not ideal. If you think for 1 second, if I do not acknowledge it and I leave it alone, it's going to leave me alone. That is the worst idea I've ever heard, ever.
Yeah.
Every single person I've ever helped with a case says, well, if I just ignore it and just leave it alone, it'll go away. No. If it wants something from you, it will do whatever it takes to get it.
Right.
And it will take its time, because demons are extremely patient. They will spend years on a person if they really want something from them. Just because you think, oh, they went away for a little bit, they'll never be back. No, they're just taking their time. They're abiding, they're watching, they're waiting for the right moment till you have a moment of fear or sadness or anger, depression. Then they latch and they attack. They poke you maybe a little bit more. And over time, slowly chipping away at you, slowly till you come to a point where they can easily do it.
Right.
It's not like that. So I always tell everyone, always have ways of protection and that. But stones, I find that one of the best forms of protection. I never subscribed to stones. I thought they actually did anything.
Yeah.
Until I became a paranormal investigator.
Right.
And then I figured out, oh, this is real. Because an investigator on the team, she made us bracelets of all different crystals and stones. And I wore one. And after an investigation, I noticed that the crystal, amethyst, and other stones were cracked and broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't slamming into things like that. They were just broken because of the energy
Yeah.
that was around the entire time. So I was like, oh, this is real. So me and my wife, we have tourmaline, I think, all our window sills and stuff like that.
Same,
and,
yep.
Yeah. She's studied into witchcraft, in a sense of the white magic, to help protect our house from intruders.
Yeah.
But then also she has me as well, but I'm not always around. So
right.
She has her own ways of dealing with dark entities as well. So, but no, I still people protection. The idea of we call it not incense, sage.
Mm-hmm.
Using that in your house is like a band-aid for a broken leg.
Right.
Right. If something's already in the house and you're dealing with it, that's what sage is. It's a band-aid for a broken leg.
Yeah.
It doesn't do much other than that. Sage is perfect for if after the end of a week or a day you need to clear out all the negative energy that you might have picked up on your shoes, essentially, and go throughout your entire day and throughout the world, and you come back and little pieces of dark energy you might pick up from other people throughout your life or out the time you're out there. Yeah, good. Sage your home. Get all that negative energy out, and then basically start over in the weekend with freshness and stuff like that. But sage, an idea of removing dark entities, no.
No, yeah.
It might piss them off.
Yeah.
But get rid of them? No.
Yeah, it's like air freshener after someone like did a big dookie in the bathroom. It's like, girl, you're just covering it up. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I love that. I was going to ask you about protection, so that's good to know. So stones, and then other than that, having strong will. Is there anything else you could recommend for myself or for others in terms of like how do you protect yourself from this darkness?
If you have faith in any god out there, I would look into the protection that they offer. With the Nordics, me and my wife use runes.
Oh, yeah.
We use runes all around the house. We've actually had, she got one of those clear markers that only comes up with black light, right? We put that all around. She went around the house with a lot of different ones. I think we have a big Algus rune on the front door, which the Algus rune is meant to ward off evil entities. Stuff like that. But, yeah, the Algus rune has almost become like my signature. I've put it everywhere on everything, even in people's mind forests. One of the other upgrades that I've done is how I talk about going to the ring, right? Those tendrils, those strings. Before, I would have to hold your right hand.
Okay.
And I could enter your subconscious part of your mind, where all your darkness dwells. Your negative emotions, your trauma, your hatred, everything subconscious or conscious you ever put is in that place. The mind forest.
Okay.
Before I had to take your right hand to do that, but now I can send those tendrils through the phone into your location and go into your mind forest and find out what's there. And I was able to pull dark energy out of your mind forest, clearing it out essentially. And I noticed when I do that, your main spirit guide comes forward. Not your only one, your main one. And I've talked to a kaleidoscope of spirit guides.
Yeah.
From Vikings, from gunslingers, from knights, from doctors who are on the Oregon Trail, from Samoans, from dancers, from actors, from fencers, from everyone and anyone you could think. I talked to a skater kid who died in the 2000s, right?
Oh.
Everyone and anyone. And I can't figure out why someone has a Pacific spirit guide, why you have that one. The only thing I've ever to learn is that if you have a fighter or warrior or someone meant for combat as your main spirit guide, you're going to be met with a lot of conflict in your life.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's the only conclusion I can come up with. And everybody's mind force is different. from the foliage, from the time of day, from how many trees there are, from how dense they are, from how empty they are. It's and everyone its mind forest is different from the last. Some are somewhat similar, but they're always different. The weather can change too. It can be rainy, it can be snowing, it can be summertime, it can be like almost a swamp. Everyone is different,
Wow.
right? But yeah, I've come to almost when someone needs extra layers of protection, I put that rune, like I burn it into the ground of their mind forest to create that extra layer of protection.
Oh, hey there, listeners. Courtney here with Jaunty Hans. Sorry to interrupt this paid programming, JK, this programming, to recommend some podcasts that you should listen to and that you should check out. These are creators who I have done some interviews with and spoken with, and their shows are awesome. So, first show is the Red Treehouse podcast. This is your official invitation to join Will in the Red Treehouse, where he'll tell you the creepiest, eeriest, and most terrifying tales to keep you up at night. And along the way, you'll be challenged to consider what you believe. Does the paranormal and supernatural really exist, or is it a figment of an overactive imagination? I mean, we know what I think, but episodes release twice each week and can be found wherever you stream podcasts. It's a scary world out there. Let's explore it together in the Red Treehouse. So guys, check out the Red Treehouse podcast. Another one is Arcane Carolinas. Check out Arcane Carolinas for an informed but fun-spirited look at the verifiable history and science behind stories about ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and plain old weird stuff. Their research methods have turned up enough surprising information about the origins of lore that the Arcane Carolinas books have been preserved in state archival libraries. Arcane Carolinas is available on all major podcast services. Do you question reality? Are you drawn to UFOs, time slips, premonitions, or the mysteries of consciousness? Then you need to check out the Close Encounters Club podcast. Hosted by Justin Gearhart, a skeptic with an open mind, Close Encounter Club features real people sharing their encounters with the unexplainable. He's joined by his producer Josh, chiming in from Australia with his own curious takes. They also bring on scientists and experts who are actually trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So, if you've ever stared at the sky and felt like something was staring back, this one's for you. Search Close Encounter Club wherever you get your podcasts. Tell them Jaunty sent you. Another one to check out is Opening Kill. Opening Kill is the new podcast that covers the terrifying world of horror films. From the latest movie news to an in-depth look at a featured film and a peek at the chilling horror films to come, Opening Kill has you covered. Whether it's gore, suspense, or supernatural thrills, Opening Kill is the ultimate horror deep dive. Hosted by Brian O'Connor and Michael Duran. Listen to Opening Kill on your favorite podcast platform every Thursday. And also Believing in the Bizarre podcast. Also, guys, Hidden in the Shadows podcast, another great one. And just for funsies, just to shout it out there, maybe they'll hear one day, maybe I'll meet them, I don't know. My favorite all-time fun, spooky paranormal podcasts are, of course, Spooked by Snap Judgment, A Funny Feeling podcast with Betsy and Marcy, and Ghosted by Roz Hernandez. So just some fun recommendations for you guys. I love to boost and promote other podcasts that I resonate with. If you want a shout out, please reach out. I'd love to spread the word. Anyway, back to the show. So cool. I haven't heard the concept of a mind forest either. That's very interesting to think about, that everybody kind of has that, where kind of it sounds like you're saying like our higher beings and what our subconscious is resonating with. Is that kind of what that would be?
Higher being, maybe. Subconscious, yes.
Okay.
It's, like I said, it's where all your negative emotion is buried or put, right? Either like consciously you put it there, or subconsciously you might have shoved it there through traumatic events you might have had through your life that you don't remember anymore, and it's buried, and it takes shape in different forms. I've taken down creatures, I've taken down people, looking entities, I've taken down shadow figures. It's all like the energy just takes shape in different forms of what you might be dealing with. It doesn't say this is what happened. No, this is what you're dealing with. But I able to remove it and clear it out. And interesting enough, not my intention. There was a woman I helped out once by clearing out her mind forest. And she literally didn't tell me this prior, that she was dealing with some kind of medical problem. I didn't know what it was. She never explained to me what it was. But she just went to a doctor the next day, and the doctor's like, I don't know what happened, but it's gone. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, it's gone. You're good. It's gone. She literally messaged me an hour after that telling me, "Oh, I don't know what you did or how you did it, but you cured me of this whatever." And I was just like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, that was not my intention, but you're welcome, I guess."
Wow. Yeah, the
So
physiological, spiritual connections with our bodies. Yeah.
that made me think as sometimes this negative stuff in our basement can actually be hazardous to our health.
100%. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that. That's so cool. Wow. Um, okay, I've just got a couple more questions for you. You've been answering and going above and beyond with so many. I've loved talking with you about all of this. Okay, yeah. So we'll get a little darker and then we'll get a little lighter. One more dark question, basically. Like, have you ever had an experience, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that was like so unsettling or like was incredibly scary for you? Like something that really moved you or changed your perception of kind of what there is?
I have no empathy or sympathy or patience or any kind or gentle words for demons in any shape, will, or form. I despise those people out there who say demons are capable of being your friends and you're working with them and they can be nice and kind. They just have a bad rap. No, no. I have a strong hatred for demons, so much so that everyone that I come across, I take without prejudice whatsoever. If I could kill them all, I would, but I've been instructed not to. So it's more of imprisonment. It seems to be settling enough, and the reason being, a year or so before my ability came to me, and this is when about 6 or 7 months after my son was born. Um, we had him, not this room, this is our current bedroom, her grandmother's bedroom, who we live with. She's 80 something years old, so we're kind of helping take care of her while she's here. But we put him swaddled in the middle of the bed with pillows on the floor. I said, he's not gonna roll. He can't roll over right now. He's too young. He doesn't know how to crawl yet, right? It was like 3 or 4 months, right? So he's at the age where he can kind of roll, but he's not like rolling off the bed, right? In the middle of a queen size bed, we put him there, and he's sleeping. Me and my wife step out into the hallway from the bedroom, no more than 6 feet away from him. And she was asking me about something, talking about something. All of a sudden, we hear a thud. We run back in the room. He is now on the floor, face down, crying as something drug him from the middle of the bed onto the ground. Megan was crying. She was upset. I was extremely pissed off. And she was like, I don't know what did this. I don't know what's going on, stuff like that. And she said in the moment when she ran to the room, she saw for a second like a very black, dark mass of just evil.
Yeah.
But she was ignoring it because she wanted to deal with Killian, our son. Um, and that made me finalize my emotions toward them. That anger, that drive, that extent pushed me to the point where I wanted to do something about this.
Yeah.
To prevent that from happening to anyone ever, anywhere, right? And that's why I have no sympathy for him. Because if a demon can do that to a child like that, who's innocent in every single way, 3 months old, 3 or 4 months old, just rip him off the bed with intentions of injuring him, right? No, I have no patience for them, and this is why I hunt them without, relentlessly.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just like yeah, pure evil for the sake of what? For their sake of being evil. Yeah, it's so crazy that exists and again in the spiritual world and the paranormal world, whatever, word you want to use for it, like this stuff does happen and I'm so sorry that happened to your son. I hope he was okay cuz
I always find out, and I pity the demon that comes after him now, because my wife, as strong as she is with her abilities, and me now, as strong as my abilities, you can bet good money that all our children are going to have abilities. And my son, yes, has already shown abilities. He showed abilities at 3 years old.
yeah.
He generates energy out from his hands and projects a positive energy shield almost that pushes stuff back.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's 8 now, but I watched him hold back, I assume was a dark entity, in the corner of our house. And he was 3 years old with his hands up in the den going, no, 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 like this. And whatever it was couldn't get around him.
Wow.
And I reached out behind him. He didn't know I was there and pulled it and threw it in the ring. And he turned and watched where it was going. And then he saw me standing behind him. Like, I didn't make a sound. I just reached out, pulled it, and I, threw it in the ring. And he turned around and, oh, there's Dad, right?
So when are we getting the comic book about your family? Because I want to read it. I'm ready.
A couple of years when we have some more kids, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's great. Okay, well then flipping sides of this, right? I'm really curious to ask all people who are paranormal podcasters, interested in paranormal stuff at all, right? How do you reset after this dark stuff? Like tell me about all of your fun, light stuff. Do you have a comfort show? Do you have a comfort movie? Do you guys like Disney or Marvel? Like what is the thing after a lot of heavy energy or darkness that you or your wife or everyone likes to do to kind of reset and refresh after this kind of stuff?
Well, I'm a big nerd.
Great.
I've been a fan of comic books and Star Wars and
Amazing.
all stuff like that. I'm 37, so I grew up with is it Silver Age of Disney? The Lion King, Disney,
I think so. Yeah,
Aladdin, all that.
I'm in my
I forgot the
30s too. Yeah, I'm right with you
yeah.
there. Yeah.
But that's what I grew up when I was a kid. And then my son, he's now into he likes trucks a lot, so he watched Cars, and then he's really big into Despicable Me and stuff like that.
Oh
So,
yeah, Minions. Love the Minions.
but also a gamer. I play video games a lot too. So that's video games have become kind of my vice, right?
Yeah.
That's my
Mhm.
my best way to relax or unwind, stuff like that. But yeah, big gamer, big movie buff. I always try to watch like newest movies and stuff like that. I'm a big entertainment fan, and that's where I get a lot of my ideas for imagination. Because I always say the best way I'm able to describe what I'm doing is through things I've watched, through comic books, through movies and stuff like that.
Right, right.
And one thing that me and my wife figured out is that sometimes media can help unlock or answer a question that you've been trying to answer. Something you might see, something that might. Now, granted, the movie, whatever the movie's based on, is not 100% real or has intuitions, but maybe the way they portrayed it in the film or show helps you. Oh, now I got that idea. I know that's helped me out a lot too with understanding stuff, and I think I have a better grasp of past lives and why we don't remember them after we come back again from our previous lives. I've been reading Dune. That is an intention of the author or writer for the show or movie, but it helped you figure out something that you were already dealing with in the paranormal or your spiritual journey.
Yeah, I love that kind of being able to connect those themes or get a new perspective on, the fiction versus what's happening in your real life. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I want to ask you what has been the most rewarding part about having this podcast and now building onto bigger things for you and your wife? What's been the most rewarding part of this for you?
People we found in our journey, like-minded people in what they want to do, because we have made a lot of enemies doing what me and my wife do. Because you think, oh, you're helping people, how would you make enemies? We're taking away the bread and butter of all clout chasing paranormal investigators out there who want a location to remain haunted so they can collect evidence from it.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of investigators we've talked to, or they put on a polite face, but we know in a real sense when they don't contact us anymore, you don't want to talk to us because you don't want what we're doing. And I've come to not care
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, because someone asked me one time, what gives me the right to do what I do, take away dark entities, imprison them? I said, because I'm the only person who can. And because I can, I must. Because to sit on the sideline and do nothing would feel extremely selfish.
Yeah.
When I know I can do something about it. But yeah, meeting like-minded people and this, making friends, making, almost family from other locations and stuff like that, from, our investigations, talking about stuff that most people feel like yourself. I don't know, you going to judge me on it? And they don't want to talk about it to anybody. Granted, this is not common subjects of conversation that I bring up with people I just meet, but there can be some point in time I'm going to have to explain to them why my hand is reaching out into the darkness and pulling something, and you're going, what the hell are you doing? I was like, and I have to describe my whole story to them.
Right.
So it's become a main point of being my friend is able to get along with that. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem because you're going to think I'm crazy or insane or there's something wrong with this guy, and it's always going to be that kind of a negative mindset. But yeah, it's finding like-minded people and helping people. Like I said, 53 individuals and family members or families from all across the world that we've helped. People who were desperate for any kind of salvation, and we offer to them. And it's not like it takes weeks
Yeah.
or months. to do this kind of stuff. No, my record time of clearing out a house and clearing out a mine forest is 30 minutes.
Wow.
30 minutes it takes me we answer the phone, we talk a little bit, you walk me around the house, I pull this, I pull that, take that, clear out your mine forest. Hey, you're done. See you later. 30 minutes it takes me. And if you might have had this question in the back of your head, maybe not, but someone listening might have. What does he charge for this kind of service? I do not charge anything ever for my services. I never have. I never will.
Wow, really?
No, absolutely free. I feel it morally wrong to do so, to charge for what I can do that no one else can, especially as efficient and better than I can. I always questionable about psychic mediums who charge for readings or this or that.
Yeah.
I'm like wondering if you're being legit or not, or you're just doing this for cash grab. So my ability being so outlandish, how dare I charge somebody for something that's not being made in that face? But like I said, I feel morally wrong to do so. So I never have. But yeah, hearing consistent families say thank you and stuff like that, and having them follow up like a week later saying, "Oh, it's still great, it's better, like it never happened," and stuff like that. So that's one of the better parts of it as well.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for clarifying that as well, because my first impression too would be like, oh wow, he must be charging what other people charge for this, right? Sometimes between $500 and $6,000. Like I've heard all across the board, and I'm with you. I feel like it's kind of like icky weird, and even with my tarot readings, people over there's like, you got to charge for this, and I'm just like, I don't know, it feels weird, it feels funky, like I don't want to charge people. And anyway, I feel happy that you're on the same page and you're so willing to help people who really need it, especially because when you're already at a point of being like physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally drained, the last thing you're going to have is 6,000 extra dollars probably, right? Like, so that's very cool. That's very cool to hear. Thank you for clarifying that. And listeners, viewers, call this man up if you need help. Clearly, I mean, this is really good to know. And kind of with that, I have a question about, what is something that you wish more people understood about the paranormal or being a podcaster in this space?
About the paranormal, that it's real. It's very real, and it's a form. I always like to think of it. It's a form of science that's yet to be 100% discovered. Uh, and I feel like if we my biggest hope for the supernatural is that science starts integrating and starts taking it more seriously to a point where we start inventing technology to help us prove that it does exist. The same way we discovered other forms of technology or devices to help us prove that gravity exists, or how the sun moves, and weather and temperature, and all those other forms of technology we've advanced so far, how we are now. Because the paranormal exists, but what's hard is that science has a simple rule that if you can't duplicate the experiment, you can't measure it, then it's unconclusive. And you can't measure the paranormal because it's never repeating the same thing over and over again, so therefore results are inconclusive. So if they can get over that hump and then start figuring out a different way to go about it, they can easily prove that's real. But yeah, that's when it comes to paranormal, that's my biggest hope, is that we start looking at more of a scientific way to help understand. Because science and supernatural, we're both trying to explain the same thing, just in two different ways about it.
Yeah.
And bridging the gap between it is going to be that. And that's why I need more people in the paranormal to think more scientific, and I need more people in the science field to think more supernatural at the same time to help bridge that gap between. And that's what I've been trying to do for the longest time. I learn as much as I'm learning about the paranormal, I'm learning as much as I can about science at the same time.
Yeah.
When it comes to podcasters, those people out there who feel like they have a story to tell it.
Yeah.
Granted, it might not be for everyone, but it might be for some people out there who might need to hear it. And it doesn't, nowadays, it's a good and bad thing that it doesn't take much to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
Simple equipment, even your own phone to record in it and then air it and stuff like that. Because you get good information, you get a lot of people out there who think their information should be shared, who probably should never have recorded anything. But it's as simple as that. And those in the paranormal podcasting world, like I said, be real, right? be genuinely yourself. One thing I found annoying when I started listening to paranormal podcasts, kind of the reason I wanted to do the podcast in the first place, is I kept finding paranormal podcasters who always felt like they were putting on a character.
Yeah.
Different voice or a different kind of idea when they're telling stories, and just like, God, be yourself. I like the podcast where I was hearing people talk about their experiences or interviewing people who were talking about their experiences, and it felt like a real conversation about a subject that's considered taboo amongst normal people.
Right.
So I always say, just be yourself. It's the most genuine thing you can do.
That's great advice. I love that. Yeah, be yourself, and like if you have a story, tell it, because so many people are afraid. Or it's like seems daunting. Like, I don't have $1 million of stuff. It's like, yeah, man, use your phone, whatever,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've had you for an hour. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, sharing your story, sharing everything that you're about. I really appreciate it. I feel like we just hit the tip of the iceberg. So like, I can't wait to keep listening to your show, and hopefully we can chat again in the future. If you want, before you hop off, please, plug Hidden in the Shadows, Shadow Walker, any projects or upcoming things where people can find you. I'd love for people to be able to find you.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram at Hidden in the Shadows Podcast, or I think our TikTok, Hidden in the Shadows Podcast 2, or links to all our social media. Always, you can find us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. You can find our podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you can listen to a podcast, you can find us. The Shadow Walker series is 1 through 6 as of right now. That goes through my abilities from where it started to where it is now. And there is about another 50% of what I didn't talk about that's in those episodes still there, available to talk about. And it's scattered throughout the last 5 years, or last 4 years. So you might have to, like, part 1 is like from like almost 3 years ago, and then part 2 somewhere about a year later. So they're kind of scattered throughout the podcast. But yeah, go check us out and give us a follow. And for anyone out there that's looking for help and dealing with anything like that, you can find us at Hidden Shadows Podcast on Instagram, or Hidden Shadows Paranormal on Instagram as well. And just message us through Instagram or email us through the website and get in contact with us. We're not hard to get to. We're easy time. Like I said, it takes me 30 minutes to take care of whatever you're dealing with, and you'll be set.
Wow. Thank you so much, Isaac. And please give my best to Megan. I'm such a fan of you guys, and I'm so happy I found you. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening. Remember, you are not alone if you've ever heard a bump in the night or caught something out of the corner of your eye. There are countless others who experience things they can't explain. And this podcast is your safe place to listen and share. Also, I want to remind everyone that this show is for entertainment purposes. I am not a professional paranormal investigator. I did not go to school to study this. I can only speak about my first-hand experiences. And with that, I'd love to mark the importance of spiritual inclusion. Your thoughts, ideas, and theories about the other side are welcome. And we know that so much of our common knowledge and perception about the paranormal stems from historical and cultural experiences. So we are open to your knowledge and understanding of things that we may be ignorant about or not fully understand. Let's learn and grow together. Stay spooky, and we'll see you next time. Hey, ghoul friends! Got a spooky story to share? Well, I want to hear about your haunts. Whether you've seen a ghost or something unexplainable, send your supernatural experiences to us at jauntyhaunts@gmail.com. That's JAUNTYHAUNTS@gmail.com. Or DM us on Instagram at jauntyhauntspod. That's jauntyhaunts.pod. You can also find us on TikTok and YouTube under Jaunty Haunts Podcast. I want to hear from you.